Hi, hello everybody. I'd like to first begin by thanking Maxine for having us here at Brickken. So we can talk about what do we do exactly and how and why we're letting the world tokenize itself, right? So before we begin, it is important to understand what is tokenization. So that's basically when you are allowed to break any kind of asset, be offline, such as real ones, or online, such as digital ones. You break it down into tokens. And then you provide a funding infrastructure so you can actually fund projects, fund companies, fund whatever you want via the tokenization of such asset, right? And basically, how we began was we've been in the space since 2020. Actually, the idea was born before, but we got pushed down to the pandemic. Obviously, when everything was closed down, we started analyzing the market, and we also witnessed a degree of digitization that we thought that the whole world was going to just not only become digitized, but also was going to be transactable via tokens. So during the past 2 years, we've been establishing proof of concepts and whatnot, just to see how the interaction between the digital and the offline was going to be, or even between same parties interacting in the same field, such as digital to digital. And we saw that in reality, everything was going to be transacted via token. So we did an MVP. We came out to the market with a specific platform that has some functionalities, and as more as we evolve through the know-how, we established that we needed a plug and play solution, right? So we allowed the experience to be easy for people, for companies to be onboarded into this tokenization, this digitization, this access to Web3. And that's how we managed to have now a decentralized application or an app that allows companies to really grasp that technology and become self-sufficient, issue their own security tokens, issue their own structure in the Web3, so they can actually be really interactive in this new type of digital economy, digital world, digital whatever you want to call it, right? And basically, what are the pains that we are trying to solve, or we actually solve via that? We call it the security token offering trilemma. It's not actually a thesis out there. We made the thesis ourselves, and it's basically throughout these years of engaging with different potential clients, institutionals, even public infrastructures, because obviously tokenization is just not safe to a specific private sector or a specific kind of vertical. It's throughout, right? And obviously, there's the aspect, which is the financial one, how to do it, where is the tokenomics, how much raise, how you're gonna, if there's dilution, how is the vote. So all these aspects, even how the funds are transmitted, how the dividends interest is transmitted at second space. Um, well, that's a big thing, right? So financial aspects was one of them. Then legal, especially when you're dealing with security token offerings, there's a security market law, and there's a commissioner in the back dealing with that. Every country has its own. So it's another layer of complexity and burden for the company to issue their own security, right? And finally, the tech aspect, not just because it's blockchain technology, let's put that it's not so unaccessible as it was once, but how you embed the solution itself in the user experience that is friendly, how easy it can be for investors to jump into tech or issuers to use the technology without any kind of burden. So you want to do it as simple as possible, as effective as possible, and optimizable as possible, right? So that's why it has to be the more simple, the better here. So that evolution took us to the next step, right? So instead of just focusing on deliver a product, we thought about becoming the underlying technology. So we go into that infrastructure level. Why do we want to provide infrastructure? Because if you provide infrastructure architecture, then means everybody can use it. Instead of going to like simple B2B, we want to create the layer under which everything is the token it can transact, right? And as more as we started building architecture wise, we established that maybe we can even provide architecture to DAOs. What is the relationship within the company being tokenized and a DAO existing? Well, basically, they still need operational aspects to be able to survive or do their day to day, right? And as we were, and we still continue to do so and elaborate that infrastructure and that architecture for companies once they tokenize their assets, their shares, or any kind of underlying value into tokens. We are providing them the architecture and infrastructure for them to be able to operate. So how those funds are located, what is the voting mechanisms in the back, what is the financial structure under which some even funds can be locked or on escrow. So, or what, how the relationship with the cap table or token holding, stake holding, however you want to call it, is interacting between themselves. So we started developing this architecture that start establishing that maybe we can also hit the vertical of DAOs, which are company-less, but being company-less should not mean structureless, because the structure is the fact that something can work because everything is well allocated. It's like a machine. Just because you don't trust the machine doesn't mean that the parts should not work as one for the machine to work. In the DAOs, it's the same, right? So when we say we're building the foundation for mass adoption, is because we are merging the, the offline company Web2 format to Web3. And at the same time, we're bringing that Web3 ecosystem into the same single point of connection. And that's Brickken. So we provide architecture for both sides. So what we want to do, or the vision that we have, is to be able to create that B2D, which is business to DAO, or D2B, DAO to D, which is DAO to business, or D2D, DAO to DAO, right? Because this is the new economy that is going to be occurring in the coming years. And while B2B, B2C, and that is already well established, and there's many solutions for that, we have not yet seen a real palpable solution as to how this new interaction should work, Web3 specifically, right? So we call it tokenization as a service, just because as a service is well known, as a service is well understood. Uh, really looking forward to really changing the whole aspect and putting it as a decentralized management solution, because it's the reality of this. When you're protocolizing something, you're providing infrastructure, or you're standardizing a format, then it's not just a service, right? It's an operational aspect. That's what we want to do. Obviously, again, repeating myself, bit user experience is super important. It has to be super simple because you don't know who you're targeting. I mean, one of the biggest things in blockchain is it becomes too innovative or too gonna put sci-fi that it's very hard to onboard the rest of the humans that don't even get to understand what is blockchain. So I mean, when you're in the space, then yeah, super simple, you go and you might understand, but you want to really bring on board the rest of the 99, well, not 99, maybe like 89% of human beings who can get to interact with blockchain. Every day there's more adoption, even though right now we are going through a very hard bear market. The adoption rate has grew exponentially since 2017, its first crash. Then the pandemic, there was a little bit of another crash over there, but it's been booming adoption. So while interaction is still heavily being adopted, we are still focusing more on the speculative size of blockchains and how the transactions and cryptocurrencies can really put money into my pockets, but yet the technology itself or the service is still not being used by all of these factors. So it's kind of like a slow curve of adoption because they enter the crypto space, which is always good, but yet they are to still be able to taste or test that new form of technology. So without further ado, what I want to say is that's target that we will try to do here, kind of like bring all that mass into adopting this kind of infrastructure so they can understand that security token offerings is a form of funding, it's a form of representation in shares, or it's a form of to how DAOs can interact between them and operate. So you want to do that, you want to bring that mass because that's how these projects or these companies being tokenized are that's what they need. They need the mass. So our whole infrastructure, even though it's a decentralized finance system, we also provide them the issuance of the SDOs, the issuance of tokens, the issuance of whatever fund format that they want to do. And since we are at the infrastructure level, we don't want to go and establish ourselves as the day-to-day based consultant because then that will break that whole idea of how we scale. So we have created a marketplace where we bring third parties who want to provide a service to the issuer. So it can be a legal firm who wants to provide like that specific need that the company might require for them to issue their STOs, or how a DAO, what is the grappling legal mechanism under they're going to operate to limit liability, which is some facts that legality should always be embedded into, or even marketing wise, because like when you want to adopt or you want to bring the mass, you will need to be out there in the sense that you have to be captain that's capturing those potential leads, person that would like to invest in the company, would like to become your shareholder, which is now transformed into a token holder, or would like to become a member of your DAO because they have the same vision, line, whatever you want to call it. So there's many layers as to how it can occur. So that's why we created this marketplace where we invite any kind of expert who wants to really foment a new funnel of tokenization and then provide a service to the ecosystem that is using our infrastructure. Just a quick snapshot as to how it looks the dashboard on the issuer side. You have everything that you need. It's a one-stop shop where you have from your daily metrics or average of how the token is transacting, who's buying, who you want to allow to buy the token, what is the market cap, what is the supply, where you're hitting. We're feeding a lot of analytics because now when you do this, your company becomes decentralized. So there's a lot of data points that you would like to require, you would like to have access to. So that's why we supply them. And basically, we just provide in a one shot the whole management of the company, the whole infrastructure for them to raise funds. And obviously, this is applicable to the DAOs because they are interested in the same this mechanism. What is my market cap? How do I get to certain levels of thresholds? How do I distribute funds? So all of that is done in a one-stop shop. And Brickken itself, if you were born 2 years ago, you have come through various formats. Formats by that I mean you evolved from a pure company using blockchain as the underlying technology to supply a service to really adopting blockchain as the underlying technology to become the service. It's not longer to use the service, but to become the service itself. And that's why we go at the infrastructure level. And we did a couple of tests with what we call our centralized application, which is just a Web 2. Nothing, I would say nothing exciting because you just stay at the outskirts of what the technology can actually bring to a project. So we were there. And based on that, I mean, I really think that if we had not done that, we could have not ever created this because that helped us understand all the pains and all the perspective and all the potential business that was there and then see the verticals. We started, for example, trying to tokenize real estate to come to the conclusion that real estate is just a part of something that can be tokenized. So we went to the foundation itself, which is the company. We want to tokenize the company level because then you can tokenize whatever else comes from the asset perspective. And basically, funding wise, we did a pre-seed round. It's right there, 135. Okay, it's not big, but hey, founders we put all our savings into this mission. And then we evolved through that. We got a subsidy from the Spanish government for 325K, which was proving that what we're trying to do was opportunity wise in the state level interesting. That's why they foment this kind of new technology also. We enter what is called a regulatory testing sandbox to test new technology. We are under the supervision of the Spanish Security Commissioner because one of the ideas that we want to create is now that you deploy this DApp and this use of tokens, then you want to provide liquidity to these tokens. So you can create that via secondary market. And in the secondary market, by excellence, is always the exchange. So we want to create a secondary token exchange where we can transact not only our security tokens that are issued via our DApp, but also third parties. So we create literally secondary market. So we're doing that as well. And basically, we launched our ICO and we closed our community round starting February, but then the bear market closed, so we delayed the next couple of rounds, which will be open very soon when we establish multi-market, when it gets more stabilized. We have no doubt that our raise will take us above 5 million. Right now, we're well above half. So it's just a matter of time so we can penetrate again the market with our ICO because obviously we would like to list. The importance of listing with our VKN is because our whole ecosystem is circulated around our token, the VKN. That's the name of the token. And it's because you can pay with the token, the issuance of any kind of STO, you should pay the experts, we get incentivized of staking and rewards. So we're creating the whole ecosystem around the VKN. And that's the fuel that can ignite all the STO ecosystem or DAO infrastructure that we're currently building. So for us to go public and live, it's a must. We are currently in talks with I would say top tier, by all means top tier exchanges. We're just waiting for the light position to finish our public faces, so we can launch them on one of these exchanges that we have been approved. But we're just on hold since the market is what it is. And basically, we want to amplify our scope, our network, and obviously, we want to just establish ourselves as that tokenization platform who, instead of us tokenizing the world, we supply the technology that allows the world to be tokenized by itself. So, just as for explaining, our go to market is breaking out in three parts. So we got the issuers, the users of the technology. We got the experts, the consultants who can help the issuers in case there's some needs that the technology cannot supply by itself. And then we got the third part or third level charge investors. So we have the funnels for capturing everything there. Uh, our business model is done by a one-time fee of issuance, a success rate on the raise, and then we have all the kind of mechanisms. And basically, funding is always needed in the sense that there's never enough money that we can monetize. We're going to be deploying our first test cases in September to that and see how we can monetize, establish new metrics. And so basically, we want to close our ICO round to further expand our departments. We've grown from, I would say, if I'm not mistaken, from 9 people full time to the company to 24 in the last 3 months. So we've experienced a growth, and we want to keep growing because we want to accelerate our positions in the market to capture the tokenization vertical. And obviously, this goes with having the possibility of getting access to new money, right? And basically, that's what Brickken is in a nutshell. And if I can close with a line, I mean, basically, our whole model is bringing companies on chain and providing infrastructure for these companies to operate on Web3. And obviously, since we want to target the novelty of what Web3 brings, DAOs will be able to use this infrastructure for them to operate and connect to the Web2 infrastructures, which is obviously the companies that are off chain. And that's basically. So thank you very much for this time. Hopefully you found the project interesting. And if you have further questions or anything, you can find us in our contacts through events. And we'll happy to be able to discuss if you see a potential collaboration or you're even interested in the organization space, how they could discuss any matter that is related to the same. Thank you very much.